Well, first of all, what's your name?
My name's Linda Letfee.
Nice to meet you, Linda. Thanks for talking to us. How would you say you depend on the forest land in the United States?
Well, we depend on it in many ways. Obviously, the trees, the lumber. We depend on it for the watershed, our clean water. We depend on it for all the wildlife and fisheries that are in the forest. There's so much public land out there. I don't think people realize how much that does come off the public land. There's lots of mining, there's lots of grazing, a lot of other special uses and recreation.
How do you feel about the state of the U.S. forests are in? Do you feel like there are some major threats or some problems with the forest land?
Well, what's happening now is after many years of fire suppression, a lot of the forests are in a state now where they are doing what comes natural, which is burning. And that's how the forest cleans itself out to start the renewal. And timber harvest in some areas is probably a good way to prevent that from happening. There's other places where it's not appropriate.
Could you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, well, yeah, if you'd elaborate, that would be great.
Well, there's an area we call urban interface, which is all the forest land that's near homes, private land, cities and communities. Those areas are usually can be helped by thinning, opening the forest up to where if a fire does start, it can possibly be a ground fire rather than a major fire that rages for thousands and thousands of acres. And then there's areas up in areas that are wilderness or areas that are farther away from communities and roadless areas that can be, you can let the fire burn a little bit to clean itself out, to do what it's supposed to do in the forest, and then it actually makes that area safer in years to come because it has already burned. It's already cleaned itself out. And usually firefighters and fire management teams can control those areas in a way to where they know how far to let it go before they know they need to start suppressing it before it gets into areas that may harm private land.
So do you feel like it's more the need for preventative, management before the fire happens, or it's a problem with how the mitigation as the fire's burning is happening, or some other reason?
I think we can definitely do preventative work. It will really help. It'll make the communities and private landowners safer from wildfire if there's preventative work done.
And any reason you see that the timber industry shouldn't be involved, or that they might have a role to play in that work?
Everybody should be involved. I mean, the best way for any decision to be made on what happens on public land is to get lots of different stakeholders together. They sit down and they come to compromises and agreements, and they decide in the end what would be the best thing for everybody. Absolutely, loggers and forest industry should be in the room.
Well, I really appreciate you talking to us. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to say about, your background or your experience personally, either with fires, maybe just as a civilian or otherwise.
Well, I worked for the Forest Service for many years, and I was a firefighter for many years. And I was a forester in the Forest Service for many years. And I ended up being a district ranger in the Forest Service. And so I was the one making the decisions on the forest management on my district. And the best way that I found that I could make a decision was to get all the stakeholders involved and have them sit down together and figure out really what the best thing was to do on a piece of ground. Obviously, you have all the Forest Service specialists that have training and lots of years of experience in their different like fisheries and wildlife biologists and the foresters and the silviculturists and everybody. But then you also have the people, the stakeholders that are out there that live in the communities, that own land around the communities, that have special interests in what they like to do on public land, that also need to have a say in what happens out there. So I have found that's the best way to get something done, is to have those groups get together and be able to consult with all the specialists and then come up with what their idea of what needs to happen out there.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you talking to us.
Okay, thank you.